Welcome back to Cal Park Bros. Jason and I are fresh off the segment discussing the standard operating procedures for Chicago Police Department to chase potential criminals on foot. But hey, for right now, CPD, y'all are right in my book. Because it could be worse. Could be talking about, it's crazy that we have two major, I don't want to call it celebrity because I don't look at Ghislaine Maxwell as a celebrity. But the reality is she is a big name because of who she's associated with. She's associated with not celebrity, but infamy. I think is a better word. Ghislaine Maxwell is going to be sentenced about a bajillion years. Basically said to R. Kelly, hold my beer. And so for a lot of us, we never heard of Ghislaine Maxwell until we heard about Jeffrey Epstein. Right?
Correct.
And so, everybody knows about Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody knows about the fact that he was, put away and then rather unceremoniously found dead in prison. And just like the R. Kelly situation, guys, it's not just a one-person operation. And what makes the Ghislaine Maxwell scenario a little more heinous, this is a woman. This is a woman who basically did the bidding for Epstein, right? And that's why prosecutors wanted Ghislaine Maxwell to serve up to 55 years. Because, hell, he's a special kind of monster, but she was basically feeding these women to him. And that's why you had 8 women send basically victim impact statements. Nothing left out that fully documented how she was involved. And I think the main thing for those victims, based on the NPR article, is that she ain't cop to it. She ain't cop to any involvement in this shit. She's basically going to be sentenced 6 months after the jury. She's going to be not for 6 months, but she's basically, the timeline is 6 months after she was found guilty. Now here comes the hammer.
I do want to point out real quick, just to make sure, she was sentenced to 20 years in prison. She guys got the sentence as he came down. I'm going to go into that, but I want to let you finish.
No, go, run with it, dog. Go for it.
No. Well, I was just going to go off a lot of stuff that you said there. And unfortunately, yes, this is going to make comparisons between the first segment when we talk about R. Kelly, because again, the situations are very similar. Obviously, right? The fact that she's a woman, I personally don't think makes it worse or better. I think what makes it worse is that she's a person who aided, or I can't remember the guy's name. I don't really care. Jeffrey, we'll say. I almost feel like that's worse. Because perhaps if you weren't helping him, he wouldn't be doing this stuff, or maybe there'd be less victim. Because you're helping him do this stuff makes it worse. And also, too, I guess from your perspective, maybe the fact that she's a woman helped facilitate these women because they felt more comfortable with a woman doing this stuff to help them out, as opposed to some random dude who might have been one of R. Kelly's entourage who's a male. Who knows? Epstein, that's his last name, right? Epstein. Again, I like you said earlier with pronouncing her name correctly, first name correctly. I don't really care what his last name is. He's dead, is what it is. I'll say it again, he's dead. But I also think that could have been a hard reason for them. They could have go at her even harder. They couldn't really fully do much with Epstein. I mean, he got convicted, he's dead in prison, suicide, whatever. But because of that, they want somebody to feel the full brunt of the punishment. She's still alive. She's not copping to it. Victims are saying she did all this stuff. Let's nail her for this. Let's hammer her home and convict her on this, which they did. She's convicted. Now, of course, like we said, in any other criminal trial, Was the 20 years she got, was it enough? Too much? Now, obviously, we have something similar to compare it to. We just talked about R. Kelly getting 30 years. Again, situations are similar, but not the same. We recognize that. He got 30 years, she only got 20. Even though certain prosecutors wanted her to serve 55 years in prison based off of the number of victims and, like you said, the fact that she wasn't competent in anything or taking any responsibility. She got the 20, which is what it is. Now, with her being 60, it's like R. Kelly with his 30 years, that could still wind up being a death sentence in prison potentially. Given also the same situation we mentioned with R. Kelly, not sure if it's any different for women, the fact that she's accused now of being a facilitator of abuse of these women. I'm not sure if they're minors or whatnot. Either way. So those are kind of my thoughts when I kind of saw this. And I agree with you. I never heard of this broad until the whole Epstein stuff. Didn't know who she was. I know she's supposedly a socialite, which to me means nothing. You mean nothing because you're really just getting famous off somebody else. You're basically a glorified paid groupie. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and I'm sure, this guy had more money than God. She also had her own, twisted relationship with money. Her parents used to be big into the, you said socialite, but yeah, basically what all that here is basically somebody had money somewhere along the way. And that's the thing. When you're accustomed to that type of dough, sadly, some of these people will do anything to stay in that level of financial status, including doing things.
Before we go any further, point to that, I want to point out that over the course of the 10 years, Epstein himself supplied her with $23 million. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, it was absolutely about trying to maintain a certain look and a certain lifestyle. And, hell, I'm not going to sneeze at 20 years because you're basically saying, listen, somebody is going to fry for this. Not literally, but figuratively. And if you're involved with this level of depravity, then yeah, I can't say that it's an inappropriate sentence because I'm like, okay, this lady was involved with this, with this heinous, level of crimes. And yeah, since Epstein's dead, you it, champ.
Again, I know we don't want to get into the whole sexual abuser Olympics here, but I think one thing that's a little more damning with this broad, and I'll say broad for her several times, compared to R. Kelly, is she was doing this for basically for money. Hey, like you said, I'm getting paid by Epstein for this. I'm going to go do this, as opposed to R. Kelly's just sexual depravity, emotional, mental issues. Which again, not making an excuse, as we said earlier, but supposedly, again, Maxwell is her last name. We'll call her G. Maxwell. Did it for money, and that's it. So she chose to ruin the lives of all these women just because she was making money, like I said, to maintain a certain status, and she was willing to do anything to get it. And the fact that she still wasn't taking responsibility and blaming other people, putting it on. Now, obviously, and she did this during the trial. She made Jeffrey Epstein the scapegoat. Oh, it was all him. It was all him. He was doing that stuff, which is easy to do because he's dead. But you still were a part of it. Own up to it. You have people saying you did all this stuff. You did it. Just let it go. You did it. Admit to it. Move on. You're getting prison time either way. She actually might have gotten less had she admitted to it. But she didn't. And the one funny thing to me, and I say funny as in not ha-ha funny, but funny as in interesting, is the fact I found a more recent article from the New York Post that mentions that people in her circle mentioned that she plans on manipulating prisoners when she goes in by using her fame and money. And my thought is, how egotistical and how self-absorbed you have to be to think you're going to go into prison and manipulate anybody on the charges that you're charged with and try to manipulate the what you call the vulnerable prisoners in there to try to gain position or favor. What she does to keep in mind is a lot of those women who are in there are probably also victims themselves. of some sort of abuse, whether it be from an actual man, woman, or people that got involved in sexual rings themselves. So I think she has a false sense of heightened abilities, we'll say, in herself because of that false fame she got. Again, she's not famous. I never heard of this broad until this. She's famous now because of this stuff. And that's it. So I'm, again, obviously I'm not going to be there. But I'm excited for her to get that rude awakening of, you're not going to be the woman in here. You're not going to be the man, we'll say. I'm not saying she's going to get beat up every day or anything like that because of what she did. But the fact she's going to go in there and try to pretend she's going to be the pod boss, no. You can forget that. A lot of those women who, like I said, the main point is a lot of those women who you made to be victims, there's going to be similar women and they're going to be locked up with, and they're going to know who you are exactly. You can't hide that stuff. If your lawyers are requested you be sent to some minimum security prison in Connecticut, okay, yeah, it might be better than maximum security, but those broads are going to know who you are because they probably have TVs where they know your face. And they're probably waiting for the moment you walk through those doors and happy, beyond happy that you requested to come to their facility. I cannot wait for her to get that reality. Again, not wishing she be killed or anything in prison, but I cannot wait for that reality to hit her.
Yeah, I think when you're in this level of fuckery, these people lie for sport. They're not just going to shut it off just because they're wearing pinstripes, dude. This is who she is. And frankly, you need an even more watchful eye. Because to your point, this lady might very well think that she is Kingpin.
Well, supposedly she mentioned, which could be a lie, she mentioned that she's already received death threats. Her life's been threatened. And I believe what I read was her claim was it was coming from like jail staff to where she's at now. I'm like, well, if you're already getting that now from jail staff where you're at now, do you think it's going to be that much different when you go to actual prison for the next 20 years? Well, as famous as she is, I hope she can actually throw hands because I guarantee somebody's going to test her. She's going to get it. Is what it is. Again, not advocating for anything that happened to her, but this is reality. It's prison, right? I've never been to prison. I've never been locked up in prison. Never been to actual jail, like where she's at now.
I like how you qualified that. That was perfect.
But after working in the facilities, being trained in those types of facilities, I know how it is. Again, cannot wait for her to get that reality check that, hey, you might have some type of status when you're out here, but guess what? Now your name don't matter. You're going to have that jumpsuit on. You're going to be a number to the guards, and you're going to be at that same face of that lady on TV who's similar to the people that made me feel like a victim. Nah, I'm going to make her feel like a victim. I'm not going to cater to you. You're not running nothing in here. You're not going to manipulate me. It's going to be vice versa. I'm going to manipulate you.
Yeah.
That's what it is, and I'm done.
Yeah. Personally, I'm just relieved that you got to send a message when you get this type of evidence, dog. And yeah, I think 20 years in any case sending a message. And that's all I have to say on that.
Well, that's given that her advanced age. If it was somebody who's 40 getting 20, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, I agree. I already said I'm done. I'm not going to jump back in. I'm not going to tag you back. Don't tag me back in, bro. Don't tag me back in.
Yeah, give me that. All right. And with that said, that concludes our third segment on Ghislaine Maxwell. And with that said, we'll wrap up the show.